Hey everyone, welcome back to Willson Builds. If you're new here, I'm Zach. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're returning from a previous video on my channel, I really appreciate all the support. I can't thank you guys enough. Today we're working on the 1929 Ford Roadster again. On this episode, we'll be working on the frame because as you can see, the body's off. If you saw the last video, we took the body off and did a little bit of work on it. And today we're focusing on a few things on the frame. So hopefully it works out. I mean, I don't really have much of a game plan besides finishing some welding and fixing some things now that the body's off that we have access to. So fingers crossed we can get that all done today, and hopefully it'll be a fun video. Alright guys, so if you're new to the channel or you just haven't heard me talk about my frame before, this is a Victory Rod and Custom stamped frame from Jeremy out of Nanoose Bay here on Vancouver Island. Jeremy is a super cool dude. He stamps these frames and I was fortunate to get my hands on it probably, I don't know now, maybe under a year ago. And then I just had Lee from LG Speed and Custom kind of put it all together in because he has a frame jig, which is super handy, and he put the rear cross member in, the center cross member in, the 4-link in, and the front cross member in, kind of got it all working. And then I took it and just kind of finished off the welding, and we're going to cover a little bit of that in the video today because I have to finish some welding on some of the top stuff because I put the body on like right away and it never came off until now. So just have to finish the top tubes and the top body mounts and so on and so forth. Fix a bit of the cross member I had to cut out to fit the transmission and kind of fool around with that and make the brake work with that kind of front section of our middle cross member. But overall, I'm really stoked on the frame. You know, it's hard and expensive to find a stock or like a, you know, original 32 frame. So having someone on the island that actually stamps them is a bonus. And Jeremy was nice enough to bring it down to me as he was coming down island, so it worked out perfectly in my favor. And I got to meet Jeremy, which is a great contact. And I don't know if you'll ever watch this video, but Jeremy, if you're out there, thank you very much. You're awesome. But yeah, so I think we'll just kind of go from front to back or important job to less important job. I think I would like to actually tackle the front kind of cross member section here. I had to cut out a little section because if you watch my previous videos, my engine was quite a bit lower and it was rubbing on this. So I had to cut a notch out of it to make it fit. And then to get the brake in there, it also had to move around. So I'm gonna try and make that work today. I think it's important to make that work and I have a bit of a game plan to start on it. So yeah, let's get started. So when the transmission was lower, it was rubbing against here. So I had to cut notches out of this side and that side. And I actually had to cut the whole thing out on this side for the brake to work. So that being said, I'm gonna try and make it work today. As you can see, there's a little lever on the bottom of the brake and it actually touches that cross member. So I'm gonna try and notch that out today and essentially weld a little, I guess like a gusset in there that will allow it to flow through its whole motion. And I think that will be good enough. Obviously, since I cut the bar down here, I don't know if you can see that quite, I'm gonna have to put a shim in there and then work our way around it, but I think we can make it work. So I got a piece of tubing, I think will work in here if we, yeah, there we go. We're gonna have to cut it probably and shim it a little bit. Oh, maybe not. Actually works in there pretty good. So that's just for strength, obviously. And I think I'll definitely have to cut that because it has burrs on it. But essentially just put it like that, and we're gonna try and put it in its original location. And I think if you can see that right there, I'll have to notch for the brake pedal. So we'll line that up now. And we're so close to having it working with the brake. I think what I'll do is I'll just cut a little notch out and then again put a piece of flat bar in there and just have enough room. So I'm gonna get my marker now and mark kind of where I think that is needed. I have some more of this tubing, so maybe if I cut half of it and kind of placed it in there, it's almost, yeah, I think that would work. So I think what we're gonna do is cut this out and cut a piece of tubing same size as this and just place it in there, and we'll weld it upside down. Similar to what we could probably do here, but with a flat piece. Okay, so I just cut the notch out for our brake pedal, and I'm gonna try it on before we do anything official. All right, we have tons of clearance now on both sides. So what I'm gonna do is now take a piece of half pipe, kind of half of this, and just lay it upside down in here. All right, so this is kind of what we got. I cut a line down the middle so I could bend it. And essentially, that's what we're gonna get. It's gonna look way neater when we have welds and making it look good. So get to welding it now, and then we'll reassess. We have our notch notched out now, and we can try this on for size again. All right, perfect. All right, so now that this setup is working, we can finish this piece of tube and fix this big notch we did to fit the transmission. I think I'm just gonna put a piece of really thick flat bar in here, and that should give it enough strength. All right, so our piece is done. I went back in and cut the other tubing out and did a bit of a wider one, and it's also thicker, so it will help with rigidity, if any, I guess. And I put a flat piece in there, shaved it all up, made it look nice. And yeah, we put the sleeve down here, tacked it in, and then I realized that the tacks were too kind of out, so I had to come in and notch right there. But other than that, it fits really good, and we are ready to tack the rest in. All right, so since we have the middle cross member all sorted out now, well, somewhat, I still have to get in here and weld, but that will happen when the transmission and motor come out. I'm just gonna run around the chassis here and kind of weld like the body mounts, some of the supports, and our brake mount, and just basically finish up the welding from the top side. I've already done a lot from the bottom, but it was hard to get to the top because the body was on, and it was a challenge. So now is the time to do that. So yeah, let's get a start on it. I'm just gonna kind of, in no order, just go around the car and start doing it. All right, guys, so I did a bit of a screw up. I mounted the headlight bracket and I guess shock mount backwards. This is a Roadster Supply shock and headlight kind of hybrid mount. And essentially, I mounted it the way, I guess, somewhat like this. And it was nice because the headlight kind of sat forward and in front of the grill, and it looked pretty, you know, good, I guess. And I think that's where my kind of thought came from, was because the headlight kind of barrel was forward, and I thought, oh yeah, okay, that's good. I wasn't really paying attention to these. I was more paying attention to the shock mount and the headlight mount. But when I was editing the video, because I filmed it all, I thought to myself, that looks really strange. So I went back, and lo and behold, they were on opposite sides. And it looked, you know, fine with the headlight, but it's one of those little things that probably would have bugged me. And I'm glad we're going back and fixing it. I don't truthfully mind the headlight being a little bit behind the grill. Usually they're like kind of like right at the grill or a little ahead, but I think this will look totally fine. So what I'm trying to do is just line up this shock as much as I can with the front axle. And sometimes you have to play with it, I think, a little bit to make it work good and kind of make it sit kind of in the frame where you want it to. I like this a little bit lower if I could, so I'm just going to compress the shock. And I'm just eyeballing kind of the even from the top and the bottom. I think that is good right about there. Okay, so we just did our marks where we have to drill to put our bungs in. I think I'm just gonna use my step bit and kind of go to the outer diameter so we can slip those in there. Roadster Supply is really good for supplying all this little stuff. Same with Speedway. I actually found Speedway really, really good for sending out kind of everything you need, maybe even plus some. And yeah, going on a bit of a rant, but we can yeah, start drilling our side of our frame. We might have to take the wheel off, but I kind of doubt it, and we'll see where that goes. Okay, so now that we have our holes lined up and we have our bungs in the right area, this is what I meant by having them a little bit out. Having, you know, maybe 1/4 to 1/8 out, so I have a good mounting surface. As you can see on the mounts, they kind of pop out as well, kind of have that surface. So this whole piece doesn't have to obviously ride on the frame, just these contact areas here. So I'm just going to clean up the frame now and essentially start getting ready to weld these in permanently. So we got to find that nice area. So I'll probably take the bung and the bolt and bolt them all up and line it up for here so we know they're straight in there, and just do a little tack, and then we'll play with the adjustment, making sure they didn't go in crooked, and then we'll be able to officially weld it in and kind of clean it up. All right, so we're looking somewhat like that. You can see the bungs are coming out a little bit. Obviously, we're gonna have to kind of turn it and play with it till we get them straight. I'm gonna probably leave them out, I don't know, that's 1/8, I bet. And I think that will be appropriate to leave out. So let's set up the welder, and then hopefully we can tack one in. And I think I'm just gonna tack them in as best I can, and then we'll try to undo the bolts just to be sure that the bolts aren't kind of going in crooked, and it'll be, you know, awkward and troublesome to get them out in later date. So I just took our 40 grit metal blender, just kind of rode the edges, and it made it really smooth, which I'm happy with. There's a little indentation right there, which we can fix. Once we have the frame off, we can kind of get in there and make it a little bit better. That being said, I'm also gonna hit these here and just fill them up and grind them smooth so it looks like the mistake was never made. All right, now that we got these all in and this all blended, we can start putting our bolts in. Get a little bit of anti-seize on them, just for safe measure. I want to put the grill in and see how we're looking. All right, so the shock mounts are on. Headlights are kind of mocked up. Lee Grant lent me these headlights to try on. So Lee, if you're watching, thank you. I put the grill shell in too because I want to see kind of the full meal deal of what we're dealing with. But try to see if I can get up here. Yeah, the shocks seem to be doing their job. I like to get a measurement from the floor to the top of the headlight here, make sure we're even. It's 30 3/4 and 30 3/4. Cool, so we're all lined up. Everything is in place, and I don't really know what else to say. It's exciting seeing it all kind of mocked up. Now we just need our bumper or bar up here. I have that, but I want to get it chromed. But everything else is, yeah, looking good. All right, guys, I'm gonna end the video there. Thank you again for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support. That was a lot of little jobs we got done on the Roadster today, and I'm stoked that we're this much closer. I shouldn't say this much closer. We are like this much closer to finishing the Roadster. We got all the welding done basically on the back half. We still have a little bit of welding to do when the motor and trans comes out, but that will be in another video. We got the shock and headlight mounts mounted and mounted the shocks and the headlights. And yeah, I'm super happy with the placement of the headlights. The shocks seem to be doing their job as they should. And yeah, counting down the jobs till this is finished is a great feeling. So if you saw something you like, dislike, something I can improve on, if you want to roast me in the comments, please do so below. And while you're doing that, don't be afraid to hit that like and subscribe button, as it really supports me and my channel and motivates me to keep making videos for you guys. So until then, we will see you on the next video of Willson Builds.